to Jim Blaine and anybody else that has any concerns, I will be filing in December. And I will be running and seeking the seat of the 26th district covering Guilford and Rockingham County. And I'm going to show that, money is law. You can do advertisements, you can do all this stuff, but at the end of the day, the relationships you build will win this election. And the relationships I built with the citizens will make a difference here in Rockingham County and Guilford.
Hey everybody, welcome on in to another Tying It Together with Tim Boehm. I am Tim Boehm here with producer extraordinaire John McHugh. John, it's been a wild week. It's not often a state lawmaker gets arrested for felony.
Yeah, that was a bit of a surprise out of nowhere, but never a dull. There are some dull moments, never a dull week.
I know.
There's always something.
I was just talking to someone on our New York station about their crazy politics.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't been too crazy lately, and then this happens. We're talking about Cecil Brockman, a Democrat. And, it's weird to be talking about how do they potentially remove members of the House. And I had to think back. I've been here 24 years. People think, it hasn't been that crazy. Well, it was really crazy back then. We had the House Speaker who was under investigation. Thomas Wright was the last person to kind of go through this process. So it's going to be a lot. Anyways, this week, we have someone on.
Speaking of law enforcement,
we have someone on that is a sheriff who also happens to be planning to take on the most powerful person in North Carolina in a primary next year. That takes some balls.
Yeah, it's
to be blunt.
It's bold, as they say back home. It takes some chutzpah, but you'll see he's up for it.
Yeah,
he is not shying away from the fact that he is taking on arguably the most powerful person in the state.
Yeah, we say arguably because some people, this is a weird state, right? We're talking about Senator Phil Berger, who's president pro tem. North Carolina, the governor position is traditionally a weak governor position, not the governor themselves, but the way it is.
And it's been made weaker over the past few years, too.
Yes, the legislature has done that through many law changes that have been through the court system as well. The gentleman taking him on is Sam Page. He is the sheriff of Rockingham County. I have covered him for I don't know how long. He's really been with Trump for a long time. He's been really pushing immigration reform, even though he's from a rural county and, sort of northwest North Carolina. He's been the sheriff there since 1998. He ran for lieutenant governor last year in the primary. I think he finished 5th out of 11 in that. So he's running. Normally, we would not be doing a podcast about a state Senate seat. We're filing. That's how wild this is, right?
Yeah, this is not your typical state legislature race.
Yeah.
And it will, over the next, year or so, it'll be a lot more. You'll be hearing about this a lot more in Raleigh and Charlotte than you typically would for a race in Rockingham County.
Yeah, it is wild. I mean, he's the most powerful person. This is in a primary as well. A lot of this goes back to the casino debate that were heard for some time. And he's not shy about why. And we're going to talk about why. We're going to talk about Senator Berger. We should say, by the way, we've asked Senator Berger to come on the show. I have a hunch after he listens to this, he may choose to come on the show. Jim Blaine may want to come back on the show for those that follow politics closely. But it's a fascinating conversation, to say the least.
Yeah, it is. He is not shying away from it, not pulling punches at all. He is, strong in his convictions, and he's you'll see, feeling pretty good about it.
Yeah, this may be the most talked about local primary Senate race in the history of the state, potentially.
Oh, yeah.
So we figured it was time to get to know who this guy is that is challenging Senator Berger, at least says he's going to challenge. Filing opens in December. Here is Rockingham Sheriff Sam Page. Sheriff, it's good to see you, sir. Thanks for joining us. Before we get into this campaign and whatnot, I don't take for granted that, a lot of people across the state do know you, but obviously a lot don't as well. Did you have dreams growing up of law enforcement? Did you see yourself as a sheriff someday?
Well, I won't say I saw myself as a sheriff, but I saw myself potentially going to law enforcement. At an early age, I was fascinated with the highway patrol because we had some highway patrol used to come and work traffic near the neighborhood where I lived at, and we used to talk to the troopers. And then, of course, everybody were engaged with and liking the Andy Griffin Show, and I kind of fell in love with that show, and I learned a lot from it. And when I graduated from high school, I did want to go into law enforcement, but I was too young, so I joined the Air Force to build my foundation before I went into civilian law enforcement.
And you did canine work in the Air Force, right?
Yeah, I did. I served as a canine handler for 5 years in the Air Force, working in conjunction with law enforcement duties, and also I cross-trained into narcotics detection with my canines, and carried me all the way from Florida, different bases in Florida, to the Philippines, to Berlin, Germany.
Wow. So what was it about law enforcement? Was it really just sort of that image that it had in your head with Andy Griffith and all that, like growing up?
Well, you learn some good lessons from it, and even today, you can still remember some of the lessons learned. But if law enforcement was something that I had a passion for, developed a passion for, and the longer I stayed in it, and the military, I said, I know I want to transition to civilian law enforcement. So when I got out of the Air Force after 5 years, I went to work for the Fort Lauderdale Police Department for a short period of time. What I didn't realize was I didn't like the big city until I'd been there for a few months. And I said, you know what, this is really, I can't see myself working in this town in the big city. Big city sometimes can be cold. And I said, you know what, I think I want to go home and start there. And I've continued my career for, 43 years in law enforcement here in Rockingham County.
My father-in-law is a former police chief, and he's got some wild stories of frozen turkeys being thrown at people on Thanksgiving and whatnot. Are there any stories that stand out to you about just crazy law enforcement stories?
I've said I'm going to write a book one day. Let me just say this when you think you've seen it all, you'll see something new and you'll see something different. But I think I've seen it all. I would like to write a book one day about my adventures in law enforcement. Yes, sir.
I can only imagine. Okay, so let's just dig right into this race that you're in right now. So Senator Berger is arguably the most powerful politician in the state. He's a Republican just like you are. So why the heck do you run against the most powerful person in the state? Arguably.
Well, I'm always been a competitive person, and I always like a challenge. But I will say this is. I worked hard as sheriff of Rockingham County for the past 27 years and 43 years in law enforcement. I think that I have invested in Rockingham County and the area. People know who I am. They know what I stand for what is right, what is about protecting the citizens. And I think I got into law enforcement for the first reason because I wanted to help people. And next year I'll be retiring December 1st, and my intent is to continue helping people in a different capacity, taking what I've learned, working with people at the local level, and taking that to Raleigh. It's a lot of lessons learned as a sheriff. It's a lot of lessons learned in law enforcement.
So that's why you want to run, but like running against Senator Berger is a whole other thing. We can dig into it some, but I mean the casino issue. What was there something that drove you to say yes, I'm going to do this?
I've seen some things early on that Senator Berger did. I'll give him credit. He did some good things, and I helped him. I helped him in my own way in his early years. But I think over the years, as Senator Berger has gone into these leadership roles, I think that his ears are deafened to the citizens that he works for. I think it seems like more and more Senator Berger appears that he listens to the big donors, the corporate interests, and lesser of the citizens. A good example was when there was a discussion locally with our commissioner board, and also how that transpired to all the way to Raleigh with Senator Berger about the casinos. There were a lot of people that were upset about it. Wasn't just the fact of casinos; it was the way it was brought about to the citizens, and it upset a lot of people. And in Rockingham County, as a sheriff, I work for the citizens. I have 92,000 bosses, and I don't get a call from 92,000 every day, but I do get my calls. I'm very well informed with the citizens and what they're interested in and what they want, and I listen to them. And that was the problem. Senator Berger didn't listen to them.
Yeah, so the casino issue was interesting because you're right. In some ways, some people were mad about the process and the people that were behind some of it. But there is the other side of it. There's the casino that just opened up on Danville, which is literally across the state line there. It would produce a lot of jobs after the Miller plant was lost up there, which a lot of jobs were lost. So are you against the casino as well, or was it more about the process and the people that were involved in trying to make that happen?
Well, let me just, my position was this, and I told Senator Berger, and I've told this to others, is as a sheriff, And we got to let you know, it wasn't just casinos; it was video gaming, video gambling that has been pushed for many years. The North Carolina Sheriff's Association have fought video gaming terminals and systems for 22 years, leading up to that point in 2023. And then the casinos were pushed out. I think my position was this: is regardless how I feel about it, you need to get the pulse from the people, the citizens that live in the district, and you need to ask them how they feel about it. And I mentioned this, if you can put it on for a referendum, just like Danville did, put it up for a referendum, let the people decide what they want. And if the citizens want it, that's who I work for. And Senator Berger would not do it.
Yeah, I try to tell people video poker. I've worked here for 24 years. That video poker issue has been something. I mean, people have gone to prison over it for years, and I'm not saying this would be the same thing, but just for folks that have not been around, the video poker issue has been a major issue for some time.
Well, again, like I said, is we never really had the discussion on casinos, and another thing was there was a lot of discussion that was in the backside under the table, as they say, and there's old saying that what comes about in the dark will come to light. When it came to light, it impacted our commissioners because they were part of this discussion all the way to Senator Berger. And again, like I said, it's, the method and the process they went to have the discussion. If they'd have been more open about it, and again, they would have included the citizens, our citizens, we the people, a position to let them have a discussion on this issue and felt what they felt was what they wanted in their community, it probably would have gone better. But not having an opportunity. And, I kind of see the same thing over and over again. That's one thing I can say about Senator Berger. It seems like over and over again, you see the same thing. With the House works on bills and budgets, and then the Senate works on budgets. But at the end of the day, when you feel like you've got a good budget, Senator Berger throws something in the mix, surprises everybody, and then you don't get anything accomplished.
Have you known him a long time? You're both from Eden, right? I don't know what the age difference is, but have you known him for a long time?
I came back home in 1981, working as an undercover narcotics officer here in the county. About later in 81, I came out and began working as a patrol officer. But I did. I remember when Phil came to work as a defense attorney in Rockingham County back in the probably mid 80s, early to mid 80s. Yes, sir. So I've known Phil a long time.
Have you seen him much since this all happened?
Well, the saying been said in the district that I should have ran 10 years ago because we'd see Phil more often. It appears that Senator Berger has lost contact with Rockingham County, the citizens here, spends much more of his time down in Raleigh. Not until I announced I was going to that my intent was to run in February of this year, have we really seen Phil a lot in the district. And so I think that the fact that the sheriff of Rockingham County is running for a Senate seat 26, that brings Phil Berger back to Rockingham County. And he'd been in the county quite a bit. But my feelings as a sheriff is, the legislature is a part-time job. It's a part-time job. When you're not down in the legislature, you need to be up in the district talking to the people that you serve, the citizens, because they are your bosses. And I think that's where Phil dropped off and forgot.
What has the reaction been like? And have you been pressured by Berger supporters at all in this?
Now, what do you mean pressured?
Well, I'll get to a question about that later. Let me just ask, how have people reached out to you, supporters of his, trying to get you to not run, that kind of thing?
I think, you remember when I ran for lieutenant governor?
Yes, sir.
I was contacted by representatives from the legislature. And there was concern about me running because, in fact, the effect or impact it was going to have on them. And I'm sure it's the same thing now, is a lot of the senators in their caucus, money is raised to help the members of the Senate. And, of course, if Senator Berger has a race like we've got, and this race, I think, is probably the most important race in the state of North Carolina. I think it's an important race. And I think that what's going to happen is they may not get the monies they need for their races, and it could affect seats. And I think that was a big concern last time when people wanted. There were a lot of people across the state wanted me to run for Senate. And when I make a promise, I do keep my promises. And my concern was I told everyone that I was going to run for lieutenant governor. I was focused on it. I listened to what they had to say, and I even met with Phil. I told Phil, I said, people want me to run against you, and these are some reasons. And what I asked him to do was this, very simply, was you need to fix what has happened, what you've done, fix it with the people. I'm going to run for Senate. Excuse me. I'm going to run for lieutenant governor. That was in 2020, 2023 or 24. I said, I'm going to run for lieutenant governor. And I did. But he didn't do anything. And I haven't heard anything from anybody else saying that there's been any efforts to fix those relationships.
Is that what you mean?
So,
do you mean that when you say fix, you told him to fix things, do you mean back in district?
Fix the damage that was done based on the process. A big part of it was the casinos in that process, how that rolled out. Look, when you have 850 of our citizens, our wonderful people, come to a county commissioner meeting, you don't normally have 30, 40, 50 people. But when you got 850 people come to a county commission and fill up every building around the county commission meeting room, watching that meeting and listening to the results on a zoning issue planning that's going to deal with and relate back to a location for a casino, that should tell you that it's an important issue. I don't remember seeing Senator Berger at that meeting. I remember listening to 5 of the county commissioners basically ignoring the will of the people. But at the end of the day, I think that impacted Senator Berger.
Do you remember what he told you when you told him he needed to fix that you weren't going to run?
I don't remember a whole lot. I just remember what I said. And I stand by it. Is, as a sheriff, I've always been conscientious about my work and how everything we do and my deputies, everything we do impacts lives of citizens out here. And I think I was pretty much trying to direct him in that direction. Said, look what you've done, fix it, because if you don't, it could impact him. Well, I've decided to. I'd heard rumblings that Senator Berger might retire. Back before February, and I said, you know what? I said, I think I've done my service. I've done my service well, I believe, for the citizens of Rockingham County for these years as sheriff. But I don't want to retire. I want to continue serving in a capacity where I can help the citizens in our district in Guilford and Rockingham County. So I decided I was going to run for Senate, and I made that decision, and I stand firm with it. I will be filing in December, so no question. And, unless the Lord takes me out of here, I'll be filing December 1st.
Well, I was going to ask you about that because, Jim Blaine, who's one of he was his chief of staff and he's a political consultant now, very close with Senator Berger, on this podcast said that assuming Sam Page files for office, I think by the time that race is over, he may have to move out of the county. I think he thinks you might be doing this to raise your profile or just to push pressure that you're not going to file. You're saying right now that you are definitely filing in December.
But what I would say to Jim Blaine is, what they say when you assume? Think about it, to Jim Blaine. But as far as my decision to run for Senate is my decision. My decision to file is my decision. To Jim Blaine and anybody else that has any concerns, I will be filing in December, and I will be running and seeking the seat of the 26th district covering Guilford and Rockingham County.
So
bank on that.
Obviously, he has a lot of money and resources. So how are you going to overcome that and win this race?
Well, I think I'll give them a lesson in what's called building relationships. I've spent 27 years in the district as sheriff, working hard for all of our citizens across the county. Senator Berger has been absent. He's an absentee senator. And I'm going to show that, money is a lot. You can do advertisements, you can do all this stuff, but at the end of the day, the relationships you built will win this election. And the relationships I built with the citizens will make a difference here in Rockingham County and Guilford.
Do you not think, just by nature of him being arguably the most powerful person in the state, that he has not done a lot for his district over his time? And I guess he's been in 24 years, but in leadership now, 14?
I'm not going to say that Senator Berger has not done some good things, but what I see and what I hear, millions of dollars, of my understanding, tax dollars have been distributed all over the state to help others. Millions of dollars, I understand, have been spent in Rockingham County. But you know what's sad, Tim? In 24 years that Phil Berger's been in office, and 14 years he's been head of the Senate, we're still a tier 1 county. That means we're economically depressed. Everybody else around us seems to be doing very well. But Rockingham County, we're economically depressed. We don't pay our teachers well. We don't fund our teachers well. It's hard to hire and retain teachers. We don't pay a lot of other people in the state and state employees very well that we need their services. No, I think that Senator Berger, he has done some good things in the past. I don't take that away from him. But right now, I don't know who he works for, because it seems like he's not listening to the people in the district. And you can throw money, but if you don't have accountability on those monies, and again, like I said, after 14 years in your leadership, we're still a tier 1 county, economically depressed county.
Do you buy that the rumors that are out there that he's trying to trade a District 1 redistricting in the U.S. House for a Trump endorsement? Do you buy that rumor at all?
In rumors, there always seems to be a little bit of truth to rumors and stuff like that. I think one of the things that got my attention when Senator Berger made the comment in some of the media is that that if he needed a redistrict, he would. He's done it before. So let me explain something to you. Senator Berger, as far as endorsements go with President Trump, and now let me go back and just tell you, because I think you already know this, is I worked with President Trump from the very beginning, 2016, 2020, 2024. I organized Sheriffs for Trump. In 2020, I was President Trump's campaign chair for North Carolina. And I've supported President Trump all the way because he puts America first, and he supports and looks after the American people. He also supports law enforcement and public safety. And we appreciate it. I appreciate it. I've had the opportunity to work with President Trump in his first term, working with myself and fellow sheriffs with President Trump and his staff on development issues, working on issues dealing with border safety, border security, and the interior enforcement, because all that happens at the border comes into the interior of the United States, including North Carolina. Now, I've spent a long time working on the project on the side, besides doing my work as sheriff. But at the end of the day, we were ahead of it. We knew it was a problem. We saw it during Joe Biden. When he came in, we saw all the persons coming across our border, millions of people coming into the United States illegally, coming into the United States and drawing on our resources. And that's why now, how many billions of dollars a year do we spend? Over $3 billion a few years ago, according to FAIR, over $3 billion a year for benefits paid out to persons illegally in North Carolina? I think over $50 billion paid out across the United States for benefits. And those benefits could be going to our veterans, to our seniors, to people that need them, to Medicaid. That's a big issue right now, covering those Medicaid costs and stuff like this. But we need to put Americans and America first. And I support that agenda 100%. But Phil Berger, he wouldn't even endorse President Trump.
Speaking of Medicaid, if you were in the state Senate right now, what do you think the state should do? If this trigger happens and it does come to fruition that the Medicaid expansion goes away, what do you think the state should do?
Let me just deal with right, because you're doing the what ifs, but right now we're in a situation where the House actually has a program to help cover Medicaid for the shortfall. I think it's like $319 million
for the
shortfall.
Reimbursements, yeah,
reimbursements. I think right now the state has a good plan from the House side, and I think it's very important that we take care of that. We find the funds to take care of that shortfall. As far as any future issues, I have to look at what's in the budget, state budget, just like any other representative. I have to look and see where we have our money, because you gotta pay your important bills first. Medicaid is important. I know a lot of people depend on Medicaid. A lot of our seniors and persons that they're economically depressed, they need support from Medicaid. I'm worried about also with the current situation right now with no budget, and we need a budget. And that's one thing, Phil, you need to get on it. We need a budget, and we need it now. State employees need to be taken care of. State operations need to be taken care of. But work with the House. Work with the House, because they have a good plan. But what you do, and what Phil has done in the past, just like this, as soon as talking about the Medicaid conversation comes around, Phil Berger wants to build a children's hospital, a multi-million-dollar children's hospital in Apex. We have children's hospitals here in North Carolina. I don't know how many, but I know we do have children's hospitals. We have a mental health crisis in North Carolina. We just come out of an opioid crisis in North Carolina. We have a fentanyl crisis where thousands of people die. I think if we stay on track, 4,000 people will die this year in North Carolina due to fentanyl overdoses and death. And across our country in the past few years, hitting 100,000 a year. That's a crisis we need to be dealing with. But we need to take what monies we have in the state and pay for those necessities first. But I'm watching what's going on with this Medicaid situation, but that needs to be taken care of. Starting October 1, we're seeing where, because those Medicaid reimbursements are being cut back, I'm concerned about these private providers, medical providers. Are we going to see doctors leaving the workforce? Are we going to see cutting back on staff? In my county, we deal with the mental health issues, and in law enforcement, we deal with a lot of mental health issues, but it's a statewide problem. I see issues where we need help in mental health. We need bed space. We have deputies and law enforcement officers across the state that sit at hospitals for days on end watching mental patients because we can't get a bed. Because when Senator Berger was in there, they did mental health reform. They cut out all these inpatient beds, and now we don't have a place to send people. So our emergency rooms fill up with persons waiting to get mental health support. So there are a lot of money issues, Tim. But I have to look at the budget, and I have to see, and I'd have to work with other members of the House and working with the Senate to determine where we can best spend our money. But I can tell you right now is you better get on this shortfall, because a lot of people are going to be suffering that need this Medicaid support.
I got to ask about this SBI case involving missing finance reports to your sheriff's campaign before 2017. From your standpoint, yes. What do you know about that?
Well, the best I can tell you this is, and this you can check this on Rockingham Update because it's some public information out there. But the GOP campaign chair advised in front of the commissioners that she knew a year ahead of time that campaign finance reports were missing from this board of elections, local board of elections. Also, there's public record information on my website. You can see where Kevin Berger had made all these public information requests dealing with missing reports. The sad thing is when you're an elected official and you find out there's a deficiency in an area like missing campaign reports, and we all talk about voter integrity and the integrity of our reporting system. Why didn't anybody report this to the State Board of Elections? Tim, how I found out about it was I was down at the GOP convention in Greensboro on a Saturday, and somebody called me and said, "Hey, check out this news broadcast from a Charlotte news station reporting about missing records from the Rockingham County Board of Elections." I looked at it. I picked up the phone and called Sam Hayes, who's the director of the State Board of Elections, and I requested an investigation immediately. Sam did that, and subsequently led to an SBI investigation. And I have cooperated with the SBI 100%, and any other investigation with SBI, I'll work with those guys. I will cooperate 100%. But at the end of the day, there are a lot of people behind the scenes that know something about this, and I'm waiting on the district attorney on her decision on what goes on with this case. But so I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. But at the end of the day, Kevin Berger has knowledge of these missing reports and stuff like this, but neither I or any other person that had the reports that they had turned in prior were told about it. We had to find out it through other sources. I had to find out through a news report out of Charlotte that records that I've been turning in over the past 20 years have been, we don't know where they're at. And my whole question is this: you had one director and you had a second director come in behind a few months in between. My question is, who was in charge of the Board of Elections looking after the integrity of those files and maintaining security on that facility? That's the question that Kevin Berger should be asking as the chairman of the commissioners. And by the way, Kevin Berger is Phil Berger's son. So the thing is, as I understand it right now, not only records that I've turned in over the years have come up missing that were supposed to be retained by this local Board of Elections, but other persons are missing also. So I guess we'll wait for the continuing episodes of what comes out from this investigation, and then we'll go from there. But at the end of the day, I have fully complied with the law as it applies to records keeping, records retention, and records that are turned over to the Board of Elections. We did our job, and we will always follow the law.
Do you or your campaign have the copies if that can be resubmitted? That go back?
I don't have to resubmit them under the law. I submitted what was necessary, requested by the SBI, and I've submitted my information, and all of our reports were turned in as they're supposed to be.
But do you have them now?
I have some of my reports. Yes, sir, I do. But what I'm trying to tell you is this: is we fully cooperated. We provided data to the SBI regarding this investigation. My question is all these other people that were involved in the Board of Elections, why didn't they say something? Why didn't they request an investigation? Because I think when you're elected official, you have a duty. You have a duty to report. I did it as sheriff. And like I said, I'll wait on the district attorney's recommendation or what they find out, what they release. I'm just going to have to say, you're going to have to stay tuned and see what comes out from our district attorney's office. I have been in touch with them because I would like to see the final findings. But at the end of the day, if a board of elections cannot maintain security of these records that they're required to have custody of, they can't maintain that security and the integrity, then how can I even trust the integrity of the whole election system locally if you can't even maintain the records that you're providing and you're required to retain?
This is a little bit off topic, but because you've been in law enforcement your whole career, I'm curious your thoughts on this. This whole issue of Charlotte and the hearing that was there last week, and now we have the National Guard going potentially to Chicago, and it's been in D.C., and there's been talk of other cities across the country. What do you think about that? The president using the National Guard and the potentially in Charlotte as well.
Well, the president, his authority feels that it's important, and then Portland, D.C., Chicago, other places that they need to bring in resources to support. The Guard have their mission. ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement have their. I've worked with these guys, and I will work with these guys. I work with all of our federal partners, but I support the president 100% in the efforts that he's doing to protect citizens of Charlotte and any other community. Okay. And also support the mission of ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. We've worked with that particular agency since 2010, starting with the Secure Communities Program through our Sheriff's Association. We've had the opportunity to work with the Warrant Service Officer Program. I think we were the first, starting in March of 2020, we were the first county in the state to work with the 287G aspect of the Warrant Service Officer Program, turning our inmates directly over to that are illegal in the country, criminally charged, with a detainer, turn them over at the appropriate time after due process to the ICE agents so they can take direct custody. We've been doing that for years. I've had roughly 645 persons come through my jail that were criminally charged, that were illegally in the country, and we worked with ICE. If they issue a detainer, we will honor those detainers, always have. There are new bills that have come out recently that have gone through that requires to cooperate with ICE, all sheriffs to cooperate with ICE. I worked on that bill personally for 5 years, and that's another thing. It took 5 years when we had the majorities. It took 5 years to get a cooperation with ICE bill through our legislature, and I can just tell you, if Senator Berger needed to be working on that, but it took 5 years to get that passed, and it should have been passed when we had the majority earlier. It was passed at the last minute of December of last year.
So in other words, you said you support the president. If he chose or wanted to or called for the National Guard to go to Charlotte, you would support that then?
I don't have any problem with that. If he feels it's a necessity for protecting America and the American people, then I would support that. As long as whatever we do is within the laws of the land and the federal laws, as long as we're within those boundaries, I support that.
Well, I think that's what's in dispute probably, and I guess that may end up going to the Supreme Court.
Everybody's got an opinion, and that can be disputed. But you have federal law and you have state law. We at the local level enforce local state law ordinances and state law, and of course with the president they enforce the federal laws. But I want to be very clear: we work with all our federal partners, and I look forward to the opportunity to continue working with ICE and any other federal partner here. We also work with our state partners, and then of course all of our local partners. All right, that's how we make our community safer there, Tim.
We're about out of time here, but one last question. There was a poll that showed you ahead. Do you believe that you're ahead and that you can win this?
Absolutely, I believe we can win this. I'm going to show Jim Blaine and Phil Berger that you can put all the money, you can throw all the money out there You can have all the PACs doing whatever they're doing. But at the end of the day, I'm going to win this election in Guilford and Rockingham County because I work for the people, and I'll never forget who I work for, we the people. Money is important, but at the end of the day, relationships will win this election.
Sheriff Page, we appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. We appreciate you, Tim. Thank you so much.
If you want to keep up with what's happening in North Carolina politics and hear more conversations with people shaping our state and beyond, check out the Tying It Together YouTube channel in the description. Hit subscribe and let Spectrum News be your resource for balanced, in-depth political coverage, elections, and issues that matter to you.